Live united.
Live united.
Live united.
Live united.
Live united.
Live united.
Vivimos juntos.
We live united.
We live united.
I live united.
Welcome to Live United. I'm your host, Rorie Scurlock, the Senior Director of Homelessness at United Way of Greater Atlanta. Today, we are going to spend some time exploring the changing nature of homelessness in Greater Atlanta, as well as the important partnerships driving this change. Earlier this month, the United States Interagency Council on Homelessness and the Department of Housing and Urban Development officially confirmed that the City of Atlanta has met the federal benchmarks and criteria for ending veteran homelessness. This means that we have all the components of a responsive system in place to end veteran homelessness. The numbers certainly look promising. There has been a 70% drop in homeless veterans in Atlanta over the past 5 years. This is in line with the 40% drop in overall homelessness in the city of Atlanta. All of this was made possible by a combination of public sector support, passionate community champions, and philanthropic support of innovative strategies. The steadfast leadership and support from the trustees of the Woodruff and Whitehead Foundations have made a huge impact on homelessness in Greater Atlanta, and foundations like the J.B. Fuqua Foundation invested early in the work, addressing veteran homelessness, but also challenged United Way of Greater Atlanta and its partners to raise a match. This has become a best practice for United Way to leverage partnerships and is exemplified in the current Homestretch initiative, a remarkable public-private partnership aiming to raise more than $50 million to be leveraged with another $60 million of state and federal funds to achieve a community where homelessness is rare, brief, and non-recurring. Today, we are joined by some of those who have been deeply involved in these efforts and who can give us a better look at what's already happened and what we can look forward to in the future of homelessness. We are joined today by Tony Johns, Executive Director at Crossroads, Jimiyu Evans, co-CEO at Project Community Connections, and Julia Kelly, Aftercare Coordinator with the Supportive Services for Veteran Families Grant at United Way of Greater Atlanta. Thank you all for being with us today, and welcome to Live United.
Thank you.
It's good to be here.
Thank you.
Julia, we know that support had to come from all over in order to make the strides we've made in addressing veteran homelessness. Can you go into more details about the key drivers of change and wraparound services that have enabled these successes?
Sure. Well, basically, concerning our key drivers, it's been our ability to collaborate with all of our partners. And in essence, it's not the work that has changed, but it's how we work that has changed. Our partners meet twice monthly to come together and collaborate and try and find out what we can do to better serve our veteran population. Along with that, we've initiated what is called Aftercare, and that gives our veterans an ability to remain self-sufficient by offering them financial coaching, employment services, and whatever it needs for them to stay and remain self-sufficient. That's what we've been doing.
That's great, thank you. I'd like to change gears a little bit. Tony, I know that your organization worked closely with us, among others, on rehousing efforts after the recent closing of the Peachtree and Pine Shelter. Can you tell me more about that process and about the success we've had?
Sure. We had been partners of the Peachtree and Pine Shelter since its inception, right there in the same block, really, maybe 500 feet from their door. And so we had been providing services for the residents of Peachtree and Pine for many years. Daily meal, documentation assistance, case management, access to a mail room, and most recently employment services. And so when the opportunity was presented for us to join this collaborative partnership, we knew we had to respond out of love for our neighbors and be a part of what was taking place. And so we began the process early on of preparing for the closing of the shelter and the transition that would take place. To begin assessing the individuals who were there, to begin putting together a census list of who was there, and then to begin deciding who would provide what services. And that partnership, that process of partnering was really amazing. It was something I had never seen in the 18 years of working in homeless services here in Atlanta, to see that diverse a group come together that represented government entities, nonprofits, churches, and even corporations. And so I thought it was a really proud moment for the community of providers and for the city of Atlanta to see that there was such a need and to see the level of response that was needed. A lot of organizations really put aside some other things so that they could focus on this. And we were very proud at Crossroads to kind of lead the residential aspect of the program and to receive the guidance and leadership of the United Way, who really convened this collaboration and gave direction, assisted with communication, make sure everybody stayed focused and on track. And to be able to do what we did in really about 90 days, I think was the total time span, we were able to place around 250 individuals into very stable, secure housing opportunities. And that wouldn't have been possible, first of all, without the financial support that came through the United Way and the Regional Commission, without the political support from the mayor's office and other government entities, and without so many different agencies being willing to just work together for the greater good. And I think it really gave us a model for how we can work together in the future.
That's fantastic. And I think a big part of the success with Peachtree and Pine was rapid rehousing. So Jimiyu, if you could tell me more about the rapid rehousing model and not only how it's worked in the past, but what work is still to come using this model.
Yes, thank you, Rory. So the rapid rehousing model's been around for quite some time now. Project Community Connections has been providing rapid rehousing services before the name rapid rehousing was kind of coined. But the fundamental parts of rapid rehousing are around providing case management, providing temporary financial assistance, and providing connections to affordable housing options. That's been the integral part of really pushing this program and pushing the fast-tracking individuals into permanent housing options. It's been a model that's been replicated across the nation, and through this replication, we've found out that it is one of the most cost-effective models and cost-effective ways in order to create a more permanent, stable housing situation for individuals and families that we're serving.
Thank you. Julia, you work really closely with our Vets Connect program at United Way. Can you tell us a little bit more about the Vets Connect program, the partnerships, and the successes that it's seen?
Well, basically, we partner with many across the countries, PCCI, Crossroads, Hope Atlanta, Decatur Cooperative Community, to name a few. We get together, and as a group, we have been able to decrease our housing, our veterans' housing. They're now able to come together as a group because of us joining together, becoming partners, everybody working together. We are now at a 9%. We're at 9% when it comes to veterans, homeless veterans in the community, where 5 years ago we began at 20%. So you can see that it's been a great success, and it could not have been done if all of us have not been joining together, working together as a unit.
Yeah, it is great to see the reduced representation of veterans in our homeless population. Tony and Jimiyu, to close us out, I'd love to hear what each of you have to say about the future of the state of work and homelessness in our region.
That's a great question. We actually had a discussion about this last week. We think we learned a lot of lessons from the Peachtree and Pine effort in ways that we can focus resources in determined period of time, short periods of time, to really create greater capacity throughout the continuum of providers along the way. I think the other thing we have to do on an ongoing basis is to make services more accessible, which means there has to be a more localized response, a more focused response in local communities. I think too often we have kind of driven homelessness to a small section of downtown Atlanta, and I think there has to be a more metro focus and response. I think that services have to be not only responsive but preventive, and we have to begin thinking about that very critical time before individuals experience homelessness and how we can make services available to them in those critical periods so that they never have to experience the trauma of homelessness.
Jimiyu?
I think that we have seen a lot of different cycles of homelessness throughout the metro Atlanta area, and we've gone through different stages within those subpopulations. We've essentially ended veteran homelessness. We've tackled family homelessness. Individuals still have a high homeless rating within the communities that we see. And then unaccompanied youth are a population that we are just really starting to see some work become prevalent around those particular subsectors. So I think learning the best case practices that we've seen work and implementing those same best case practices into these other subpopulations is something that's going to help us achieve greater success in ending homelessness here in Metro Atlanta area.
Yeah, it's been really fantastic to see the collaboration and all of the work that's gone into each population and making our systems more efficient throughout the entire homelessness spectrum. Thank you all for joining us today. I really appreciate you coming here to share more about your work and all the exciting changes and upcoming work in homelessness.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Priya, the spokesperson for United Way. United Way and dedicated community partners have teamed up to create the Financial Capability Network, where trained financial coaches help people in our community become financially literate. That means teaching people things like how to track spending. I think I found the problem. Half of these are for gummy worms. It means teaching people how to build savings. Gotta start somewhere. And it means teaching people how to plan for the future. Wow, at this rate, when I'm 16, I won't have to shake my folks down for a car. United Way's Financial Capability Network is awesome. Hi, I'm Priya, and I'm the spokesperson for United Way. United Way helps make communities awesome, but do you know they have a lot of help? Well, now you do. United Way has a ton of help from people just like you. Oh, and me. People like us, I like to call communitarians, because we care a lot about our communities. For us, caring means doing something, and United Way helps turn all of our caring into a whole heck of a lot of doing. United Way is powered by awesome communitarians. You should totally join us. And hey, I know the best way in. Hi, I'm Priya, the spokesperson for United Way, and I'm here to tell you how United Way's Impact Fund makes our community awesome. When you give to the Impact Fund, good things happen. We build teams of nonprofits to work together to help kids stay in school, make sure they have a doctor to go to, and help our communities become better places to live. So what are you waiting for? Give to United Way's Impact Fund to keep making our community awesome.
Welcome back to Live United. In our first segment, we talked about how homelessness is changing in Greater Atlanta. Now, we want to switch gears to a different component of our work in homelessness. You just heard what we and our partners are doing to make big changes in our community. You also heard about how we provide wraparound services to adults in need. But what about the children? In Greater Atlanta, more than 30% of kids are homeless or at risk of homelessness, and therefore at risk of falling behind in school. When children experience homelessness, they tend to have unstable home environments despite having loving families who work as hard as they can to provide for them. The nature of their circumstances often means moving around frequently. This can inhibit their ability to keep up in school or to even stay in school at all. That's where Kids Home Initiative comes in. Kids Home is a comprehensive solution to help families avoid or escape homelessness, regain secure and successful futures, and keep their children in school. To help us learn more about Kids Home, we are joined today by Joy Monroe, founder and director of SPARC, the Single Parent Alliance and Resource Center, Lonnell Williams, private client advisor at U.S. Trust and YPO board member, and Amy Barrow, director of United Way of Greater Atlanta's Regional Commission on Homelessness. Amy, can you tell me a little bit about Kids Home with a brief description of what it is and how exactly it works?
Sure. So I think the most important thing to note is that the reason that Kids Home is successful and works is because we have a great network of nonprofit partner agencies and community volunteers and champions, like the folks sitting here to my left. Kids Home at the core is about finding the appropriate housing solution for families that have school-age children and are experiencing homelessness. Okay. So we work directly with the school system. we have the school homeless liaison or social worker contact our team to let us know that there is a homeless family that's enrolled in school. We then have a case manager that works really intensely with them for about 3 to 6 months to make sure they can get stable. So we are always looking for the appropriate, safe housing solution that's in the child's school of origin, while at the same time we want to address some of the barriers that led to their homelessness situation. So we're connecting our families to medical homes, we're connecting our head of households to job and income support, financial literacy. We're having our students connected to education support like after school and mentorship and tutoring programs. And we help alleviate some of the financial burden by connecting to basic needs like food pantries and clothing closets. So we do that for about 6 months or so, and the families are on the path to stability. And then we want them to think about goal setting. So we want them to think about untapped potential inside of them. And so we spend about 6 months, and our families, whether they're a 7-year-old child or the 99-year-old grandmother, we encourage them to set goals. And we have a goal coach that works with them for about 6 months so we can turn those dreams into realities. And then sort of the last piece of the puzzle is aftercare. So we want to make sure that our families are continuing to get resources and referrals long after they're stable so they don't fall back into the cycle of homelessness.
So this sounds like a really comprehensive program with a lot of unique components. So can you tell me about where this takes place in our community?
Sure. So right now we have sites in Douglas County, Cobb County, DeKalb, and a new site in Clayton that was funded and sort of lifted up by our YPL professional leaders.
Oh, great. So Joy, your organization SPARC is a big partner in Kids Home all over our region. Can you tell me what you do and what your role is with the Kids Home initiative?
Well, SPARC is the Single Parent Alliance and Resource Center, and we work hard to strengthen the odds for single parent families. If you look at the statistics that come out of that population, they're not as positive as they could be and should be. So we work with these families to ensure that children coming from single parent homes have the same advantages that children coming from 2-parent homes would have. So in our partnership with United Way and with the Kids Home Initiative, we are the goal coaching arm of the program. So we work with the families to help them identify goals. We then work with them to break those goals down into steps and then walk with them through the process of successfully achieving those goals. So goals could be things like getting a job or going back to school or purchasing a car, all the things that they would need to do to maintain stability so that they don't cycle back into homelessness. Some of our families go back to school, or we also focus a lot on parent engagement and getting parents engaged in the education of their children, making sure they're active. Are they attending the parent conferences? Are they reading to their children or having their children read to them as well? We also want families to begin to establish a savings account as well. So that's another goal that comes through the program. So we encourage our families to try to save a minimum of $500 just to have set aside in case of an emergencies. And for some families that happens quicker than it does for others, but all of our families are working towards achieving those goals. We also work with high school students in a program called the Futures Club. So these are high school seniors that are going to graduate and would like to go to college, but really haven't done any of the work and have no real idea on how to do any of the work. So if you ask them, have they taken an SAT or an ACT? They have not, and some of them didn't know they had to. If you ask them about financial aid and you say, have you done your FAFSA? You get this blank stare as if all of a sudden now you're speaking in a foreign language. So we work with them to help them kind of walk through the process of applying for college, enrolling in college and staying in college, because a lot of our kids come back in the summer and actually work with our organization over the summer in our after-school program.
That's a great way to make sure that those that are involved are able to also give back from the lessons they've learned.
Yes.
And in giving back, one of our organizations within United Way, our engagement group, so Young Professional Leaders, has encouraged our young people and volunteered and been a big supporter of Kids Home Initiative. So Lonnell, if you could tell me a little bit about the YPL participation.
Sure, and again, thank you so much for allowing me to be here. The reality is that there are a lot of young professionals within the Atlanta-based community that are really have a knack and a desire to give back. And we realize the people group that we really want to focus on, particularly with the YPL group, is the Kids Home Initiative, and really working with young individuals whose families may not have all that they need, but with our assistance and help, we're going to get them back on their feet. In many ways, be the railroad tracks to get them on their way to the path to greatness. And YPL's goal, ultimately, is to provide support, not only financially, but also through our volunteer hours and our hands, to be able to give them what they need to be better. And so, particularly, for example, in Clayton County, this past year, after our wonderful gala that we threw in May, we're able to put forth resources to really make Kids Home Initiative really have a place in the Clayton County community, with great support from obviously the United Way, and with the county in and of itself. We have been able to really undergird some of the children and families in that community and give them what they need. And so, for example, this year we're focused on technology, and so our goal is to raise enough money to really, in many ways, create a tech hub for young folks. And so they can come and they can, come to a computer and look up things on the internet, and or they could have internet services in their home at a discounted rate. Maybe give them some type of tech literary skills in the sense of, how do I work a Microsoft Word document, or how do I properly do research in this particular subject matter? We really want to give them the tools because technology is the wave of the future. You can't do anything nowadays without using a cell phone, a smartphone, or an app. And so we really want to kind of help that next generation to understand what they need to be successful in the future. And so that is really what the YPL is doing this year. And our ultimate goal is to have this not only be in Clayton County, but we also want it to be all over in every county that's in Georgia, particularly because we believe that kids' homelessness, in particular, is something that can no longer be a part of the narrative of Atlanta. It just cannot be. And we're going to do everything we can to make sure that that ends with every dollar and every hour that we put forth.
That's great. And you mentioned the YPL Gala. Can you tell us a little bit about what that does and
Sure.
what it contributes to Kids Home?
So it's actually called A Night for a Greater Tomorrow, and we've hosted for the last couple of years. The one in May, we had a wonderful rooftop event. We had young professionals and from all over Atlanta to come together. We dress up in wonderful outfits. It's a reason to go buy a brand new suit, so I'm always grateful for that. And we come together, we have silent auctions, and we raise money through donations from large organizations, but then also from hand-to-hand donations, individuals in the community that just want to contribute to this initiative. And we come together. It's a night of celebration, of fun, of just enjoying one another's company, but with a goal in mind, and that's to raise up enough money so that we can make an impact in a community for the children that we really believe are the future for tomorrow. And so it again is going to be happening this year, in 2018, in May. I think it's May the 4th, first weekend of May, and we're just excited. And so for individuals who are interested, we would love for them to come out. Tickets will go on sale sometime in January, February of next year. Come support, give back. Not only that, if you can't necessarily give back in dollars, give back in time. Volunteer to some of the amazing United Way volunteer events that we have going on. And just recently, just a couple of weeks ago, we actually had a wonderful Saturday event where we hosted, tons of folks to be able to do great initiatives all across the city. So it's not so much always about the dollars, but it's also about giving back your time and your efforts to make a difference in this city.
Well, thank you, and we appreciate your involvement. Joy, you mentioned that your organization's Future Club is an important part of the Kids Home Initiative. Can you tell us a little bit more about Futures Club and maybe your use of volunteers in that?
Well, volunteers play a key role in our Futures Club. It's important that our students, who are typically first-generation college students, so they don't necessarily have the home support to know how to apply and go to college and be successful. So we like for volunteers to come in and meet with our students and mentor them, and also give them information on what life was like for them at college. And students can ask questions and get answers so that they know how to be successful when they get there. We have volunteers who will come in and do presentations on topics. They'll mentor students. They'll assist students with college applications, help them prepare for the SAT or the ACT. Plenty of help doing the FAFSA form. Nobody likes to fill out government paperwork, but they can always use help with that as well. And really also just giving them a life-size example of what they could look like. So they can get to interact with positive role models who've gone to college, who are where these students are trying to go. So it gives them, they get to see what they could look like 5 or 10 years from now, and so that's critical.
And Lonnell, you've been a big life-size version of what they could become. So can you tell us a little bit about Futures Club?
Sure. With my own personal interaction, I'll tell you a little side story. I grew up in Compton, California, and obviously Compton is well known for its gang activity and violence, and so growing up in somewhat of a tumultuous home, I had to learn very quickly how to adapt, but more importantly, to kind of fend for myself. And around the time when I was applying for college, unfortunately at the high school that I was attending, we realized that our college counselor, who was really charged with guiding students to a better future through their college application process, in fact was actually funneling many of the minority students to community colleges, and then students with low GPAs but didn't necessarily have had the same skin complexion as myself. They were being funneled to four-year institutions and Ivy League schools. And unfortunately, I had no one there to give me the guidance and support that I needed, number one, with the information, as well as what was needed to apply. You know, what things like, FAFSAs, what is that? You know, and how often do I have to apply? You know, is it just one time or is it every year? You know, no one shared that information with me, and unfortunately, I got the brunt end of the stick, and I learned very quickly what it took to actually apply. But then if I fast forward and participating with the Futures Club, these young people are actually getting all the information that they need. I mean, they are literally being given the tools that are needed to apply to college, but not just apply, to be able to have support throughout the entire process, to come back, and then I'll share the message of what they learned and what they're going through and how to help bring another person through. Someone once told me a long time ago, if I open the door for you and you bring yourself through, I want you to hold the door open for someone else. And that's exactly what the Futures Club is doing.
Thank you, and we appreciate you holding the door open. So Amy, to close us out, if you could tell us a little about what we can expect from Kids Home Initiative in the future, what would it be and what can we accomplish?
Sure, so I think one of the things that we definitely want to do is increase the geographic footprint of Kids Home. So right now we're only in a few counties. You know, we have a 13 county footprint at United Way of Greater Atlanta. We'd love to see 13 sites. So we are currently looking for additional funding, for new partners, for new schools that are willing to work with us. And so that's always ongoing. But we also want to deepen the engagement of the sites where we're already in. And so some of their examples, you know, are things that we're working with right now. So Joy mentioned a lot about the goal setting. So one of the things that we're working on is incentivizing when people hit those goals using conditional cash transfer models. And that's been really successful.
Thank you. That's really interesting, and I appreciate all of you joining us today. It's great to have such talented people working to end homelessness in our community.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you so much.
Whether it be rehousing the homeless, helping veterans access mental health services, partnering with the public sector to create massive regional change, or helping a family keep their children in school and in stable homes, United Way of Greater Atlanta is proudly dedicated to ending homelessness in Greater Atlanta. Organizationally, it has never been our goal to merely address the symptoms of homelessness. We know that it's not enough to simply feed or clothe someone. Instead, we must work on the root causes of homelessness and provide wraparound services to address all parts of a person's situation. Our partnerships with the organizations you heard from today make this possible. Thank you all for working with us to end homelessness in Greater Atlanta. We'll see you next time.